Happy Father's Day and welcome to this special edition of Context celebrating dads. What makes a good dad and what does faith have to do with it? That's next. A lot of us expect Dad to be pretty handy when it comes to building things. So new dad Sheldon Neal caught up with one of Canada's most famous builders of backyard decks, Paul LaFrance, the host of Decked Out. Take a look.
That's right, Lorna. I'm here and I'm speaking with deck builder and designer extraordinaire, Paul LaFrance. And I'm also speaking with his wife, Jana. Of course, you remember Paul from great shows on HGTV, such as Decked Out, Home to Win, and so much more. Today, though, we're talking about Father's Day. What does it mean to be a dad? He is the father of 4 beautiful young girls. We're going to get into it. Let's go. Well, first, let's start here. What is an average day like with 4 girls in the LaFrance family?
Mount Vesuvius, Mount St. Helens, Krakatoa.
Those are all volcanoes.
They're
right?
all volcanoes, yeah.
It usually starts with someone crying or fighting.
And it might be one of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with that, who makes the first move out of you both?
It's our agreement that mornings I handle.
It's like walking through a minefield of emotions. So when you have 4 adolescent daughters, you just never know. You could say one thing to one daughter that's like what they need to hear to calm them down will be the exact same thing to another daughter that causes an emotional explosion.
Yeah.
So you just don't know. So the reliance upon the Lord is very prevalent, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, I think both of us would be in a psychiatric ward by now.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm also a dad to a young girl. She's 1 year and 4 weeks. Do you have any tips for me, a parent raising girls?
Do I ever? So my take on raising daughters, particularly from the male standpoint and in our culture, for one thing, is to take all of your natural instincts and ignore them. So when you are dealing with the emotions of a young girl, going into an adolescent girl in particular, let's take an example of, say, our 15-year-old right now, who is, getting into the age where, say, boys are coming into the picture. Now, the natural kind of male response to that would be, well, we'll bring them over to the house and I'll sharpen knives or load a gun at the table or something along those lines to send a message, say not to mess with my daughter. Yeah, let me tell you how often that works. 0. Because what it's saying to your daughter is that I don't trust you and I'm going to threaten this boy, which means that it's actually pushing her away from you. I've wanted my girls to know from the get-go that you can come to me with anything, because that's the way God is with us. I don't think there's ever been a time in my entire life where no matter how badly I've screwed up, where I've, gone to God and he's been like, I'm sorry, you can't come to me with that. I'm angry with you. I'm disappointed in you. That's not the way he is. So why would we be that way with our own children? I think the reason why we do is because we're operating out of fear. We want to make sure that they're going to be okay, so we try to control things around them. But that is the number one reason why people rebel.
My advice would be to be intentional every moment. So not to follow a list of rules or parameters that you've created, but to respond to every situation. So and it is constant prayer. It's like, okay, how do we deal with this? This daughter is getting bullied at school, or this one doesn't like fruit or vegetables or meat. So, but it's always like, okay, how am I going to respond to this?
So with our girls, there are no rules that we have that aren't fully explained as to the reason why and why it's for them. It's not about them, you need to do this because we say so or you're dishonoring your parents. That doesn't work. Would that work in the adult world, where it's like, you're going to do what I say because I'm your authority? Are you going to respond well to that? Probably not. Why is it any different with kids? So there's a balance there, because you want to guide them, you want to teach them in the way they should go. But the importance of respecting your children is, I think, a concept that most people aren't familiar with.
Now, you both are Christians. I'm curious to know, how has your faith in Jesus been an essential tool for you building a family, especially in the society we live in when there's so many self-help books? You walk into a chapters, there's books row on row on row. How does God play that essential tool for you in your raising your family?
I think I would say you would agree. One of the things that's different maybe than a lot of those kind of self-help books or how to incorporate God into your family. And one of my favorite things about Paul is, and what makes us work really well together, is that Jesus isn't like a compartment in our lives. He's everything, and through everything, our conversations, the things that we create, the relationships we invest in. That's what the girls have grown up with, is two people who live and breathe God, and a God who loves them. And we've said to them more than once, you know, if you guys forget everything we've ever taught you, or decide to reject everything we've ever taught you, if you come away with one thing, that you are loved by God infinitely and more than you will ever be able to understand, then I'll be happy and we'll have done a good job.
Yeah.
Jenna, what's one thing you admire about Paul and how he is a father to the girls?
One of my favorite things is how he protects them and loves them fiercely. Like, you can tell even just talking to him. You don't have to guess what he's thinking. He's not a quiet guy or reserved guy. They've known since they opened their eyes. The first time they ever opened their eyes and could actually see him, they knew that he loved them. He wasn't going to stop looking at them, and he was going to protect them. And I think for girls in particular, growing up, having a daddy who's going to take care of you and protect you and have your back is so, so important. And I thank God, and it sounds cliche, but I thank God all the time that my girls get to have a daddy like him.
What do you think your girls need to thrive in life, especially when technology adds to an ever-changing landscape, social media another level? What's that one thing you would say, girls, here's what you need to really make it in this life?
That one's easy. If our girls know, number one, how loved they truly are, that's coming from us, but even as it's coming through us, it's coming from him through us. So they know that they are loved by him. When somebody knows that they are deeply loved, then they have the true opportunity to not live this life ruled by fear. All fear is worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow. You know, when Jesus said, do not worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to have enough worries of its own. You know, come to me like a child. Then you can see the kingdom of heaven. If my daughters understand that, and that is probably one of the greatest things I'm constantly trying to say to them, that we both are. Mm-hmm. If you understand that this is the game, and that you do not have to exit this world of childlikeness, where you dance like nobody's watching, where you have a crazy idea and you're not afraid to say it. The adult world wants to steal that from you. I want them to enter into the adult world going, wow, you guys are all really scared. Mm-hmm. That's not what my Father in heaven wants me to be like. I am not going to be afraid about what my future is going to be, because he's got it. He's got my future. You know, people say, what plans do you have for the future, Paul? I'm like, I spent enough years making my own plans, and they never worked, ever. Mm-hmm. What do you see yourself in 5 years, Paul? Don't care. As long as it's what he wants, as long as it's on his road, because his adventurous path for me is going to be way better than anything I can come up with. If my girls can know that growing up, and that's the path that they follow, well, they're going to be great.
Paul and Jana LaFrance, thank you so much for spending time with me. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having us. It was great to talk.
I thought you did great.
I thought I did okay.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
You did better.
Oh, did I?
You're used to this.
Oh, you're a trooper. Aw. Yeah.
Well, Paul and Jana LaFrance told us about some of the special challenges raising their 4 girls. But what about raising boys? For that side of the parenting story, we'll speak with psychologist and counselor Dr. Gregory Jantz. He is the author of Raising Boys by Design, a practical book that explores how today's brain science and the Bible come to some similar conclusions about what boys need to thrive. Sheldon, over to you.
Thank you so much, Lorna. I'm joined now by Dr. Gregory Jantz. Welcome, sir, to Context.
Hey, good to be with you today.
Well, let's start here. You are a parent of two boys and know very well the challenges that comes with raising boys today. What have you discovered that all boys need to know and thrive as they grow?
You know, boys are interesting, aren't they? And boys are different, and what they need from a mom and what they need from a dad actually is different. And you know, moms use a lot more words than dads, about double. And so dad, and that's just the difference between men and women brains. And so one of the things that boys need from dad, it's going to sound really simple, but they need time with dad. And we call it shoulder to shoulder, just being together. And they usually need that time around a physical activity.
How are boys' brains different than girls, and how does that influence their behavior?
Great question, because I have two boys, and if you have a boy, you've seen this. It's sometimes a boy will seem to be very impulsive. In other words, they just kind of act out, and you go, and you want to say to your son, you go, "What were you thinking?" And of course, the answer is, I don't know. It's like, I wasn't thinking. And that's the difference. The boy brain, the prefrontal cortex, this right up here, this is the prefrontal cortex. This is where it's called executive function. This is where we make good decisions. For the boy brain, this is the last part to develop of the brain. And so this is why we'll see a lot of impulsive behavior. Remember, that brain is actually growing and developing up to about age 25. So a boy brain develops differently than a female brain, and you're going to see more impulsive behavior from a boy than you will from a girl, from simply a brain development point of view.
You know, Dr. Gregory, what do you think are the learning curves all fathers need to face?
Well, one of the things is we need to understand the developmental stages, and a boy's going to develop differently. We're going to see probably emotional maturity, or what I'll call emotional intelligence. You may think, oh no, are they going to live through 7th grade? What is going on? Or 8th grade, middle school? And you're wondering, how will he ever make it in life? And moms start to worry that their sons are forever lost, and the dads are saying, no, he'll be okay. And you know, typically they are. And boys need mentors. Boys need, besides their dad, or if a dad's not in the home, they really need other male mentors who are speaking into their life. It's like the adolescent elephants in Africa. You lose the alpha elephant, and the adolescent elephants go wild. Our sons are much like that. They've got to have the mentors and the alpha males in their lives as a guiding force in their life.
Now, your book is a very practical guide that parents can really learn from. Can you give us some tips to raising boys with a particular strong character as well as self-discipline?
We've got, number one, to envision that positive future for our sons, finding them mentors in areas of their interest. If they're interested in technology, finding those that can come along that are a positive influence. We need to also teach them about faith. And we look at what are our family values? What do we want to teach them about how they treat, for example, females? What is respect? What does that look like? How do I honor authority? How do I rise as a leader and honor authority? So these are things that we're going to need to be teaching them. And we can always start this. You know, you feel like, man, maybe I didn't do a good job. My son's 16 or 17, and I'm really worried about him. You know, look, the things we talk about in this book, Michael and I, you can start at any time. It will make a difference.
Now, Dr. Gregory, what about screen time and limits there? I know that's a particular concern for many parents.
Well, I think one of the limits we put is how much time we allow. And it's age dependent. So there's, for different age ranges, there's different times that we're going to allow, and then what we're going to allow them to do on that time. So we have a rule. I have a 17-year-old and I have a boy who's 13. The telephone or cell phones or devices, as we call them, have to be on the charger in mom and dad's closet every night at a certain time, or you don't have it the next day. So there's those boundaries. So we put time boundaries. We also do something it's interesting. We do a detox, a technology detox. So we pick not every week, but maybe probably twice a month, a day that we're as a family going to be doing technology detox, and that means we're just with each other. We're not on our devices, and we're giving each other our time without distraction. So occasionally try a technology detox. By the way, it's probably as hard for mom and dad.
Now, Dr. Gregory, I want to refer to something you've said here. You've said that both boundaries and love are key ingredients in healthy fathering. What do you say to fathers who feel like they have a lot to do in this area?
Oh, I would say there's hope. Do it in baby steps. Start by spending small amounts of time. Don't do it out of guilt. You go, oh man, I haven't done a good job. And you feel bad and you start doing things out of just feeling guilty. Look at it this way. I'm going to reinvest time in the lives of my son, and I'm going to maybe give them what I didn't have growing up. And I'm going to believe in them. I'm going to be very careful. A boy's ego is very sensitive. So I'm going to watch the words I use. Watch the words. We live in an age where, our boys are getting a lot of negative. So speak life. Speak good words over them. I tell my boys nearly every day that, you know what, I believe in you and I believe in your future. They need to know their dad, other male mentors really do believe in them.
Dr. Gregory Jantz, author of Raising Boys by Design, thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome.
Coming up, lessons from one of Canada's most prosperous families about fatherhood. A conversation with Matthew Bronfman about his late father, Edgar Bronfman. Edgar Bronfman, CEO of Seagram's Distillery, was one of the most famous Canadian fathers of his day. But before he died, he penned his deepest insights about what really matters in life in his book, Why Be Jewish? Earlier, we spoke with Matthew Bronfman about the lessons he learned from his father. You come from one of Canada's most distinguished families. Your father grew many businesses, Seagram's, of course, so high profile. And he changed lives through his diplomacy with the World Jewish Congress. What was it like growing up Bronfman?
Well, that's an interesting question because on many levels, as you say, my dad was a leader in many fields. And on the other hand, he was just our dad. We didn't know anything different. I think one of the reasons he moved to New York was because he didn't want to be, and he didn't want us to be in the spotlight so much. And New York is a big place. You can be a little more anonymous. I think he felt Montreal was a little small, frankly, and it would put too much pressure on his children. So growing up, I went to school with John Kennedy. So John Kennedy was the star. So nobody else was the star, which I think was great for all of us, that we weren't really in the limelight that much.
Today we're honoring and remembering the impact of fathers, and you've written and said that your father was your hero, but he was also very busy. How did he become both a father and a hero to you?
Well, he was, as I said, he was just our dad on many levels. We did all the things that children did. He yelled at us when we didn't do our homework, and et cetera, on the dad level. Took us on holidays, was there, for dinners and lunches and things like that. But as time progressed and we got older and he started to really go on his Jewish journey, his leadership journey in the Jewish world, you could see how he grew and how the impact that he had on social justice, on his fight for Soviet Jewry, on his fight for Jewish rights throughout the world, really made him into a real leader. And one of the things that's been really amazing is especially since his death, people come up to me all the time and talk about the impact that he had on their lives. And that just reinforces those feelings about him and the impact he had on others. And that's very heroic in a lot of ways. It's heroic to spend the time, the effort, to have an impact on the world.
Your father had kind of a spiritual awakening in his 60s, and shortly before he died, he wrote, "Why Be Jewish?" and in part to explain to younger people his passion for his faith. What message do you think he felt compelled to share near the end of his life?
Well, I'm not sure that he had a spiritual awakening, and the reason I said is, as you know, in his book, he claims that he did not actually believe in the anthropomorphic God who sits there and sort of has us at the end of a puppet string, and if we do good things, we get rewarded, and if we do bad things, we get punished. He believes in godliness. He certainly believed in and came to believe that the Torah commands us to learn and to take action. And I would say that the message of this book, if there really is a takeaway, for me anyway, is it implores the next generation to learn. Not necessarily does it implore them to become religious, but it implores them to learn and not be ignorant, and then make a decision. And and he spent time studying. He spent so much time studying in the last, as you say, 20 years of his life, that he really understood the impact of Torah, of Judaism, and what it meant in terms of man's relationship with man, and how people should treat each other, and the fact that we need to fight for social justice. We need to fight for each other. We need to advocate for each other. And I think the message really is, before you can reject anything, go and learn. And once you learn, his view is, and I totally agree with this, that then you will embrace what it means to be Jewish.
How do you think readers will be inspired as they read this testament of faith in the modern age?
I think people will be challenged by it, because it is a real call to action. And a call to action can be very daunting for people. To say, you need to bring up your family, you need to earn a living, and in addition, you need to, or should, not need to is a little too pejorative from his standpoint, but his vision is that if you go and learn, you will want to embrace the third piece of the stool, third leg of the stool, which is to try to repair in whatever ways, large or small, you can. You have an obligation in a way to build that third leg of the stool, whether, as you say, it's the ecology, whether it's Jewish rights, whether it's women's rights, whether it's gay, lesbian rights. In his view, it doesn't really matter what you take on, but you should take on something. And that's kind of the challenge of being a Jew in today's society, is to make sure that you don't leave those who you care about behind in any way, shape, or form. And I think that's a high bar. I know for me personally, it's a high bar.
You are also a father and have lived through the different seasons that entails. What has life taught you about being a good father?
To be a good dad, you just need to love your kids. You need to love them and support them. You need to, I once heard a great metaphor for parenting, and that was like when you're coming into harbor, there are buoys on both sides, the red buoys and the green buoys, so you're in the center of the harbor. And the question is, where do you set those buoys? Right? You can be a very strict parent, you can be a very liberal parent, but you need to set boundaries. You need to, and so that's the hard part. For me, that's the hard part. Where do you set the boundaries, and do you set boundaries? I think children, I think I needed it. I know my siblings needed it. I know my kids need boundaries. We all need boundaries. So you need a ton of love, and you also need some boundaries, so you know where not to go. And there are lines you can't cross as a child, and your parents are responsible for teaching you where those lines are.
Matthew Bronfman, thank you very much for being with Context.
Thank you for having me.
We want to know what you think, so here's the question for you. How did a relationship with your father help shape your life? Answer by any of the means you see on the screen. Hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, give us a call. We can't wait to hear from you.
Coming up, my thoughts on the glue that holds fathers and families together. Head to our website for your chance to win a free copy of a book that helped shape our program today. At Lorna's Books, you can enter to win Raising Boys by Design by Gregory Jantz. It's an excellent book for anyone fathering or mothering boys. So your chance to win a free copy, just click to enter and we'll send a free copy to the lucky winner. Good luck.
This segment is brought to you by Cranberry Golf Resort and Living Water Resort and Spa in Collingwood, Ontario, where families experience fun, weddings, and business meetings are successful.
It was William Shakespeare who wrote, "It is a wise father who knows his own child." Today, we celebrate the gift of that special bond between father and son, father and daughter. We heard from our guests that children thrive when they know they are loved and when there are boundaries. We also heard from Deck Wars star Paul LaFrance and his wife Jana that faith in Jesus is an essential tool for them that helps them with the repair job that all families and all fathers eventually need. Followers of Jesus know that in God we have a strong and loving Father who forgives our mistakes, who gives wisdom to all who ask. By drawing on God's grace and strength, fathers and mothers can discover and instill the strong character that kids need in today's world. There is a path we can find through the bumpy times to beautiful family memories and a love that will last a lifetime. If you want more information on any of the topics or guests today, please contact us by the means you see on the screen. For all of us, I'm Lorna Duick. Thank you for watching, and join us next week as we explore life beyond the headlines. Head to our website for your chance to win a free copy of a book that helped shape our program today. At Lorna's Books, you can enter to win Raising Boys by Design by Gregory Jantz. It's an excellent book for anyone fathering or mothering boys. So your chance to win a free copy, just click to enter and we'll send a free copy to the lucky winner. Good luck.